As most of you probably know, Valorant has been released for 2 years now, and since then, Riot has been periodically releasing cinematics for each episode, also known as seasons, and within these cinematics contain lore hints and along with the new maps that release with each episode, gives us, the players and viewers, a lot of fun to have in the Valorant world. When the game was initially released with the cinematic Duelist, there wasn't really anything lore-wise fully established yet, and everyone just thought Riot was just showcasing two of the most popular characters in an animated form. And that is somewhat right, because at the time, Riot were still working on the move because unlike other games, Riot didn't have a set story for Valorant yet before making the game. They made the game before they came up with any intricate storylines or narratives, which is why in this video, I'll be taking you through the entirety of the Valorant timeline, and with the new information being added in the new cinematic Shattered, this will be an up-to-date timeline with the latest episode before the act ends in August. I will also be doing a breakdown of the cinematic for lore clues when I go over the cinematic later in the video, but if you want to skip to that right away, there will be timestamps placed throughout the video, so if you'd like to skip to a certain part in the video, you are free to do so. Alright, now with the intro out of the way, let's get to the rundown. First things first, let's go over some of the terminology that I'll be using throughout this video so you guys don't get confused about what I'm saying. The first two terms are AFL and YFL, which stands for after the first light and year of the first light. I will get into what this means later since I'm just explaining the terms as of now. Alpha and Omega are also two terms I'll be using very frequently throughout the video. To elaborate on what this means, Alpha is the main Earth in which we play Valorant on and are where the agents that we follow throughout the cinematics reside, while Omega is the mirror Earth, which is where the quote-unquote evil versions of the Alpha agents reside. To put this into more simpler terms, think of the Alpha agents as the defenders who need to defuse the spike and Omega agents as the attackers who plant the spike. You guys still with me? Okay, because there's a hell of a lot more information within the lore, but that's just the terminology you need to know for now. So let's get into the story, shall we? Now here you all asking, what is this first light that you just mentioned? Well, I'm glad you asked. The first light took place at 0 YFL, which is, as you guys remember, year of the first light, and was an event that occurred that made certain individuals across the world gain special powers, and those individuals are known as Radiants. It is not known for sure what happened specifically during the first light to make these individuals so powerful, but all we know for now is on that day, many Radiants were created across the world. 1 year after the first light occurred, Radiantite is discovered by Kingdom Corporation, which is, as you guessed, is a corporation located on Alpha Earth. There's little at the moment known about Radiantite other than it's able to distribute an immense amount of power, and that prolonged exposure to Radiantite may result in unusual feats of strength according to this sign found on Icebox. 10 years after its discovery, Kingdom had grown enough to be able to produce 3/4 of Alpha Earth's energy, which they claim is beyond safe despite the concerns of the public around the Venice Incident, which we'll get into in a bit. Also in the same year of 10 AFL, the Valorant protocol was founded by Brimstone and Viper to be able to build a team around the Radiants that were created around the world. The most important event of this timeline, other than the first light, happens a little while after, but still during 10 AFL, which is known as the Venice Incident, which was just spoken about a few seconds ago. The Venice Incident is what we see played out in the Duelist cinematic, which was the first episode released by Riot. In this, we see Jet being pursued by Phoenix, and that we find out later is because she has a package, also known as a spike, which cannot be planted and is told to by Phoenix by Sage, who is speaking to him through voice comms. At the end of the cinematic, it is shown that Jet manages to kill Phoenix in his ultimate form and is able to secure the plant before he's able to revive himself, and allows it to go off, which explodes half the city and shoots a portion of it into the sky. This incident indirectly starts battles across the world, and the very next day, another attack in Kingdom Corp's Radiantite refinery, also known as Bind, is prevented by the Valorant protocol. Only this time we get a glimpse of who the people attacking these places really are, because at the end of the Duality cinematic, which is where we see this attack being played out, we see that Alpha Phoenix comes face to face with a clone of himself, but in a more evil light. It is then shown that there is a mirror Earth known as Earth 2, or more commonly referred to as Omega Earth, and it contains counterparts of the Valorant protocol agents. And you might be asking, well, if there's a Valorant protocol in Alpha, there should be one in Omega, right? Well, I'm glad you asked again, and yes, there is. In Omega, their Valorant protocol is actually named Valorant Legion, and their sole purpose is to lead attacks like Jet did in Venice and steal Alpha's Radiantite in order to fuel systems on their Earth, which we'll also get into later. There's also an Omega Kingdom Corporation, which is called Kingdom Industries, which allows the Valorant Legion to be able to travel to other Earths such as Alpha to complete their missions. From everything shown so far, it is very clear that Omega is way more advanced in the technology than Alpha is, because they were the first to be able to gain contact with the other Earth and also be able to construct teleporters to other Earths as well. Retake is the next event that plays out, which takes place between 10 and 11 AFL, which is an attack on Kingdom Corp's Bennett Island S-22 container port, also known as Icebox, which is inevitably stopped by the Valorant protocol and is also the first time we are introduced to Yoru. Yoru was brought on this mission specifically because this is where he found the mask he uses to shift in and out of dimensions dimensions, so evidently he would have the most experience navigating this area since he was able to successfully steal the mask from here and managed to escape without getting caught. And around the same time period, the Everett Lind Research Lab, commonly referred to as Fracture, was destroyed by Chamber when he and his Omega counterpart worked together to destroy the Large Radian Collider, located within this lab, killing almost all the staff working within this facility. This collider was built by both Kingdom Corp and Kingdom Industries when Kingdom Industries secretly communicated with Kingdom Corp to create a lab so that they would be able to create a device that would help Omega due to the world having a climate collapse when the first light occurred, such as the sea levels rising so high that it would completely submerge coastal cities far beneath the ocean surface. It was said that this device would help both worlds, but as stated was destroyed the day it was supposed to be launched by Chamber and his counterpart for reasons that Chamber and his counterpart agreed upon. The Valorant protocol then began attempts to replicate an Alpha Omega teleporter in order to travel to Omega Earth, known as the Omega Project, after the lab was destroyed, but ultimately failed when Viper and Cypher traveled to the abandoned lab in an attempt to find blueprints but were unsuccessful. Chamber then arrives to provide them with the blueprints necessary, allowing faster progress to be made on the construction of this teleporter. But with standard energy sources failing to be up to the task, Neon is then recruited as an agent of the Valorant protocol in order to provide enough power to the portal and to be able to travel through it. But there's one thing we have to go over before we continue this video, which is that I would like to ask you that if you're still with me, please subscribe to the channel and like the video if you're enjoying it. A lot of effort gets put into these videos, so I would really appreciate it if you subscribe because we're on the way to 3,000 subscribers and that 99% of you guys watching haven't subscribed yet, so subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you all for the support and I love you all. So now with that short advert out of the way, let's get back into the story, shall we? Okay, where were we? Oh yes, we have now reached 11 AFL and the Omega Project has now been put on hold because of an anonymous blackmailer who has personally sent a dossier to each one of the Valorant Protocol agents and threatened to release this information to the public if they didn't focus on proving their innocence rather than on tracking her down. Because at this point, the general public didn't have a clue that the Valorant Protocol even existed, because even though Radiants have been talked about on the news as seen in Duality, the protocol is meant to be kept a secret so that none of their agents, especially the Radiant agents, can be tracked whatsoever. But with this threat on the horizon, a strike team was put together to follow this blackmailer to Istanbul, where the protocol would eventually detain her and figure out who they were. The blackmailer ended up being Fade, the latest agent that was added to Valorant. Once apprehended, everything turned out to be a big misunderstanding when Fade was convinced that the protocol was holding hostage someone precious to her, but turned out was false. Brimstone then informed her of their entire operation and about the Omega Earth and suggested to her that maybe this individual she was looking for was on that Earth instead of Alpha. She was then recruited as the 20th agent of the Valorant protocol, but only as long as it brought her closer to the person she seeked. But with that little side quest out of the way, it was time to get back on track and finish the Omega Project, and we have now reached the events of Shattered, which is the latest cinematic that has been released by Riot and is probably the most lore heavy cinematic to be released as of late. So I'm assuming most of you have already seen it, but if you need a recap, here it is. Killjoy, Reyna, and Neon have been tasked to go through the now finished Alpha Omega teleporter, which takes them to a data center located in Lisbon, Portugal, on Omega, also known as Pearl, to find out what the Valiant Legion is doing with the Radiant Knight that is being stolen from Alpha Earth. This then leads to a huge battle between the Protocol agents and Force Atlas, which is an unknown team that is seemingly led by the Valiant Legion because of the way Omega Viper later in the cinematic commands one of the soldiers to find Neon while she dealt with Viper. Meanwhile, Killjoy goes to one of the terminals located in the data center to decipher what the Radiant Knight is being used for. It is then revealed in the cinematic that the stolen Radiant Knight is being used towards powering life support systems that most likely Kingdom Industries is developing. Finally, after Killjoy manages to close up shop, they all manage to escape and figure out where exactly they are. They work out that in the Omega world, the Valiant Legion is known worldwide by the public and that they praise them. This is deducted from the comic book shop that they find themselves in once they escape and by seeing the statues along the coast of the island. It is also shown that everyone knows about the Valorant protocol because on one of the comic book covers, the words Alpha Threat is shown, which conveys that this world sees the Alpha agents as villainous, just like the protocol sees the Legion agents as villainous, as seen in Duality when Phoenix sees his counterpart. Once the mission is complete, Reyna expresses her absolute frustration and anger to Brimstone about how little the protocol knew about what was going on Omega, and the doubt she had over the missions now that they knew Omega was using Alpha's Radiant Knight for life support systems. She then demanded that Neon train with her from now on and that Brimstone found out more on Force Atlas, since this was the first time they had seen a team like this. And with that, we have reached the end of the timeline, because this is all we have so far about the Valorant lore, but the only Easter egg that can be found in Shattered is that one of Killjoy's robots used Ruben Pontes' information to get into one of the computers. For everyone that has no idea who that is. He was one of the Omega scientists that worked on the collider, but was killed when the lab was destroyed. There were multiple emails between him and a scientist from Alpha named Orrin McKenna, who worked on the collider alongside Pontes, that could be found in the game, which gives a little more insight to how things were like and what was happening leading up to the inevitable destruction of the lab. Another Easter egg is that on one of the monitors you can see 3 of the Omega agents were notified of the data center breach, but we only see Viper in the cinematic while the others were incoming. But that's about it for this video, and that's pretty much all that Riot has released so far for episode 5, and I hope you all enjoyed this video because this video took a lot of research to make and a lot of work was put into it, so it would mean the world to me if you guys subscribe to the channel and like the video if you enjoyed it. And if you guys want me to make more Valorant lore videos or just gameplay videos in the future, let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to make more. And as always, at the end of every video, I hope you'll have an amazing rest of your day, and if you're not already having a good day, I truly hope your day gets better, and I truly believe in all of you who are out there struggling with anything in your life, and I know that you guys will be able to get through it and your struggles, and everything will eventually work out and get better for you. You just have to keep going and never give up. I love you all, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you all next time.